Welcome to the Lord and Richards Show, a program that will enable you to become more financially independent and prosperous from a biblical point of view. Tune in each week to learn how to prosper through good markets and bad. Now, here's our co-hosts, Colin Richards, your biblical investment advisor, and Dylan Schoonover.
Welcome into the Lord and Richards Show. My name is Dylan Schoonover, joined by CEO and founder Colin Richards of Lord and Richards. Colin, today is an exciting topic, especially near and dear to your heart, philanthropy and purpose. We have a lot of retirees as they get to, that distribution phase of life, that retirement phase of life. And retirement means something different to everybody, but I think a lot of them have a heart for philanthropy, and they need to think about, okay, what can I do with my money and my time? And so I want to talk to you today kind of about your background first in the philanthropy that is big and near and dear to you, and then kind of walk through, different ways you're seeing retirees take advantage of that in their lives. So open up with kind of where you're at and what you do as a part of Lord and Richards and the philanthropy you're seeing.
Thanks for that, Dylan. Yes, we founded Lord and Richards years ago with the idea that right out of the gate, it would be designed to help some of the least helped people in the world, some of the most neglected people in the world, people who really wind up as covers on magazines, and we kind of depersonalize them. We view them as tourist attractions, but actually, we work with people who do the rings like this, and in Asia, we work with people who have superstitions that, we in the West would consider just bizarre, but are actually very much bondage to whole people groups that don't have languages that are written down, people groups that don't have clean and sanitary access to water, on and on it goes. And what we do is, as a firm, Lord and Richards, the tail is in the title. Lord and Richards means it's, in my view, a partnership with God. I'm a pastor as well as a financial advisor, and I love helping people. I love telling them about God's mercy and love and grace. And I especially love bringing that to people who are oppressed and people who are burdened down by civil war and strife like the countries we're currently working in. And so Lord and Richards was established with that in mind. And one of the things I think we should tell our clients is that, if there's something that God has put in your heart that we think, well, we could never do that. We could never, have that kind of impact. Maybe your personal goal would be to help children, or maybe your goal would be to just help people right in your own community. Sometimes we think, oh, but who am I and what do I have? But it's amazing when God finds somebody he can trust, how much resources he will entrust to that person and allow to pass through you to be a blessing to others.
Well, also, I think that resources in our America are a lot different than if you're using them across, international waters sometimes, right?
Absolutely. With most of the world living on less than $2 a day, in America, 35 times that at $70 a day, there's an extraordinary gap. And we have kind of a biblical model of that. As a faith-based firm, we use biblical principles to underpin what we teach and how we invest. And one of those principles we see in the giving that Paul encouraged the wealthier churches of his age in the first century to give towards the poorer churches. So we have the church in Macedonia that was really considered a poor church, but yet they outgave the wealthier churches. And sometimes that disparity is glaring. And but what I find is, whether you're talking about a faith-based cause or a charity that's near and dear to you, or just wanting to give and support, it's amazing what we can do in small doses over time. Small things done consistently over time can yield extraordinary results, and that applies to our giving as well.
So what if you are looking at a retiree who's coming in and saying, hey, how do I budget for this? What does this look like? Kind of walk us through when that is something that is on their heart, how that works into their financial plan.
Well, the key is, at the beginning of our process, we invite every retiree to give us a retirement expense report. I shy away from the word budget. It sounds like shackles, chains. Oh, I'm on a budget, right? It sounds limiting, but we call it an expense report. How do you live already? And our team will analyze, and you feel it in your bank account, but we can actually see it on the page. Do you have some room, some slippage there between your income and expenses to be able to do more of the things that you love? That can include your retirement dreams, goals, and wishes, but that can also include your desire for giving and volunteering and so forth.
Makes a lot of sense. And so when you're looking at the different options out there, sometimes people donate their time, sometimes they donate their money. There's also tax benefits to this, and kind of walk us through where that can actually be a double bonus, if you will, almost like Santa bringing presents at Christmas time. Like, it can really be a double win, right?
That's right. Our government, fortunately, sees the value of charitable giving. The American population is, as a nation, the most generous population on earth. Nations look to us for help all the time, and we have more charitable giving than any other country on earth, not just because of our size, but even per capita, per individual. And so because that's built into our tax code is designed to tax things that we want to discourage. Now, sometimes we're taxing income. I don't know why we want to discourage that. But also, you know, we have our sin taxes, right? Taxes on gambling and so forth. But then we also give tax breaks to things we want to encourage, right? And to promote. And one of those things is giving. And so each of us can realize that benefit. Now, ordinarily, what we do is pretty straightforward. We give to our church or to an organization that's tax, a 501c3 organization, or just tax exempt, and therefore we get a deduction for that in the year in which we give it. Sometimes, though, people have special tax circumstances. This happens whether you're a business owner or a high net worth individual. You may have years in which your income has gotten significantly higher and you've been pushed up into a higher bracket. And yet you realize that, you know, I don't want to give so much money to X, Y, or Z charity at this exact moment because they don't have a specific need. I would rather parcel that out over time. Well, you can set up vehicles, tools, instruments within your plan that will allow you to give now for causes that you will not give to them until future years. So you realize the tax benefit now, but you don't have to give the money to the actual charity until future years. One of those is called a donor advised fund. Real simple tool. We set that up immediately and you take a deduction. So let's say this particular year you had a lot more income. We sweep some of that money in. It's no longer under your control, but you get a tax deduction. And then you advise that money out of that fund gradually over time to the causes that are interesting to you.
And you leave that to someone that designated to do that upon your death?
Nope, you don't have to wait till death. You can actually take care of it throughout your lifetime. So you're the advisor, you're the donor advisor.
Right.
And so your wishes will be honored. It sounds a little squishy, right? Like, I'm just advising, are they going to use my money for something else? No, you're the one directing that. But the key is to follow the legal setup. You're called an advisor on that. And I don't know of any circumstances where the advisor was overruled, right? But I imagine if somebody tried to do something illegal, that would result in that. But there's also parallel vehicles such as a foundation. That's what we've done at Lord & Richards. We have the Foundation for Global Education, and it works very similarly, but you use the foundation when you want to be more active, when you want to actually be more involved in the actual charitable work.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about legacy, both legacy monetarily and legacy with time. We'll be back shortly.
You're watching the Lord & Richards Show, a program that can help you become more financially independent. Tune in to learn how you could become prosperous during good times and bad.
Welcome back in. We are talking about philanthropy and we're talking about legacy here. We're talking about being able to leave a lasting legacy. I feel like as people get closer to retirement or start living retirement, you know, sometimes time opens up. I have had retirees tell me, I don't know how I had time to work because I got so much to do now, but I think that's more discretionary time. And so whether you're leaving a legacy of your benevolence or you're leaving a legacy of money, I think it's important to touch on how you navigate what you do with your time once you hit retirement.
Absolutely. I actually encourage my retiring clients to practice before they ever get to their retirement date. So maybe we're having a conversation and we're a year out from retirement. I really encourage them, start pretending you're retired. Take that PTO rather than letting it build up. That's called paid time off, for those who don't know that acronym. And rather than let it just build up and accumulate and get paid out as a check to you after you retire, actually take it, you know, and a lot of times if people have worked for a company for decades, they've got quite a bit of that vacation time available, and start imagining how you would live as a retiree. What happens, unfortunately, is people who don't do that wake up, it's retirement day, and they don't know what to do with themselves. And then they suddenly realize, I'm lacking one of those key needs in that pyramid of needs at the very, very top. right up there with happiness is a sense of purpose and meaning. So down here at the bottom is just having your bills paid and food and safety and security. But as people move up that pyramid, they ultimately want to get to a place where they have joy and fulfillment in life. And if you haven't really been able to imagine what it's like to not have to punch the clock and go into work, you're leaving a whole social circle around you behind, and you're going to have to make new friends. Well, we suggest get going early on that. If you envision retirement as being an opportunity to volunteer, start that now so that you've already figured out, okay, I really do enjoy that, or, oh, those little kids really kind of irritate me and I don't want to volunteer down at the daycare.
That would be me, my life, yes.
And start playing like you're retired. And then when you are retired, you can say, okay, these were the things I really enjoyed this year, whether it was the travel, whether it was the volunteering, whether it was just the time at home to read and garden and so forth, and you can just expand from there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what I was hearing you talk about was a second type of pyramid of opportunity. We've got one of those where we're looking at the risk in a portfolio, but there's also the opportunity for the pyramid to lead to something that's has maybe greater meaning than just I'm going to play golf every day.
That's right. Yeah, we call it Maslow's hierarchy, and people study this in school, but it's just that hierarchy of needs. What do I need most? Well, it's hard for me to think about being happy and fulfilled and joyful if I can't pay my bills, if I can't put food on the table, if I feel unsafe. And so, although Lord & Richards can't help you a lot in the area of having like personal security, we can help you make sure you have the financial resources to obtain that yourself and to keep a roof over your head that's comfortable and to put you in a place of abundance financially so that you can move up that pyramid to personal fulfillment, joy, and happiness.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And, we talk about sustainable giving, and there's different ways you can set up, to be consistent with your giving. Obviously, there's the old time of like, okay, we'll just set up an automatic payment to your church, giving 10% every month. But when you move into retirement, there may be different options that open up to you. Can you talk a little bit about the areas you can give sustainably and continuingly that might be a benefit to you as well?
Yeah, I've actually got a couple of ideas to share. One of these relates to just a person that's retired sometime before, or even is still working, but you haven't yet gotten to your 70s when you're required to take money out. Okay, so in those years, giving away in advance is not only great from a philanthropic standpoint, but it's also great from a personal tax advantage standpoint. I'll give you an extreme example. A man by the name of Derek Shiver invented a company, or created a company called CD Baby. I don't know if you've heard about it.
CD Baby.
CD Baby, yeah.
Like compact disc? Is that what we're talking about? Like the CD?
They would actually take lesser known musicians' music and make it available for purchase. And it was just a service. Derek was into music himself, and he was just doing it for his friends. And it was one of those true, if you love something, do it and you'll make money at it, and he did. And eventually, CD Baby was a provider for services like iTunes and Amazon and so forth, built the company to a valuation of $22 million, and then just decided he would just sell it and focus on the other things in his life that were fulfilling. But what was unique, CD Baby, I know you're thinking, you're like, I've never heard of this in its music industry, because Dylan's got a great background in music. But it was a really neat idea that he had. He said, basically, I have everything I need, so I'm going to take my entire company before I sell it, and I'm going to put it into a special kind of charitable trust. Now, you don't have to own a business to do this. You can just do this with a portion of your wealth. But he took the whole company, put it into this charitable remainder trust, and what happens is he can live off of and take an income off of the money that he sold, and the whole transaction was tax-free. So rather than, if he had sold a $22 million company, normally you're going to get whacked a pretty big portion from what we call capital gains tax, which is in excess of 20% on something that size. Rather than leaving all that money on the table for the government to take, he basically gave it to charity in a trust, but he didn't start giving it to charity yet. What he actually did was he was living off of it, and the remainder at the end of his life will be given to charity. And therefore, he has a huge tax deduction on that sale. He has consistent income for himself, but he's also done something amazing, and he actually ended up giving it to musicians for their benefit.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty neat strategy, isn't it?
It is. I had never heard of that story of CD Baby.
You got to look it up.
I was debating whether we were talking about compact discs or we were talking about certificate of disappointments or certificate of deposits.
Certificates of disappointment.
I was like, okay, come get your CD Baby at the bank. Like, I don't know. I was just trying to.
Yeah, it was a 90s thing. I know you're just a child.
Well, the CDs were valuable in the 90s. So people who, both the compact disc and the actual CD was getting good returns in the 90s. But is that something that, when you look at that, is that something people can do commonly? Do you have a lot of clients utilizing this strategy?
Well, we should have more because we have a lot of clients who are charitably minded, but that's a big step. It feels a little bit like burning a bridge, right? Because I'm going to take my wealth, put it into this trust, and yet we see it done at the huge level. I'd like to see it done more at the common level that most of us are living at, where people say, okay, yeah, as long as I can draw an income from that, and trusts can be designed to support you. They can take care of your health needs, your education, your maintenance, and your support. You get a huge tax break. You also get huge deductions on that estate at the end of life because it passes tax-free to the charity that's remaining. And I think it should be done more. Another great example of that is Hobby Lobby. Many people have heard of that. It's another faith-based company. Their goal is to give away 50% or more of their profits every year to similar work to what we do at Lord & Richards through our foundation. But they took the step in life, rather than just doing it at death, to take that whole company, and it is no longer owned by the Green family. Their personal net worth is just whatever they've drawn out as income and saved on their own. The whole value of Hobby Lobby is in a trust, and it's set up to be perpetuated, and the family and other people serve as trustees of that business. It's a great mindset, again, for those who have a faith-based component in their giving, because it switches you from the concept of I own this to more of the biblical concept of I'm a steward of what God has entrusted me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, when we come back, let's finish off that discussion on legacy as we talk about philanthropy here on the Lord & Richards Show.
You're watching the Lord & Richards Show, a program that can help you become more financially independent. Tune in to learn how you could become prosperous during good times and bad.
Welcome back to the Lord & Richards Show. Today we're talking philanthropy, and we're finishing up our third segment talking about generational wealth, how you can leave a legacy. This is important to you. I know we have a lot of people who are high net worth who own a lot of things, and they have a lot of things they will leave behind when inevitably they will pass away one day. So walk us through the steps of how you can be both beneficial to others and your own family and your legacy you leave behind.
Well, I always have a conversation at the very start of our relationship. In our very first meeting, we actually get a lot done where we draw out of our clients information about what really makes them tick. And in the legacy area, I have a specific way I ask this question every time. I say, we've got a lot of clients who have different views about legacy and what they want to pass on. I've got some clients who absolutely positively want to leave a legacy. Maybe it's to the kids, maybe it's to the grandkids, maybe it's to charitable causes. And we're real good at helping you do that. As a matter of fact, Lord & Richards, if you want to set up a donor advice fund, a charitable remainder trust, a foundation, all these entities, we will help you do that so that you kind of have one-stop shopping when it comes to your charitable giving and your legal needs. But then I also have clients on the other end who say, Colin, could you figure out how to make the last check bounce, And
that kind of sounds fun too.
Yeah, we can do that. There are actually specific ways where we can make sure, unless you pass away tomorrow, of course, which we hope doesn't happen, but we can make sure if you live a long, normal life, that we taper that money down to as close to zero as we can get it. And then I have a whole group of people in the middle who say, well, Colin, although, I'm interested in helping out the kids, the grandkids and so forth, maybe they've been successful, they've had their own careers. Sometimes my clients will say, well, actually, my kids are doing better than I am financially. Why would I leave them anything? But I would want to first make sure our needs are met, that our retirement goals are achieved, that we have the financial freedom, and then what's left over, I don't want to go down that big funnel of the government and nursing homes and hospitals. And so I'd like that to go to the family and to causes I support. So that's kind of the typical lay of the land when it comes to our clients' views. And depending on their answer to that question, then we dive into the next step.
So that makes me think of the word trust and having that kind of set up for people, because we talked about will and we talked about probate in different times, and obviously those don't fully encompass things, so you do need a trust. How often do you see people with something like that set up already ready to go when they walk in your office?
It's rare, Dylan, to be frank. I've had a few clients I've actually learned from who had things set up that I didn't even take advantage of myself. When I established my foundation, I learned that from another client who was doing it, and I did the research, set it up myself, and was able to do that pretty effectively years and years ago. And so from time to time, we're learning from our clients, we're seeing what they're doing, and then we're passing that knowledge on. But most people are coming in, and by the time they're talking to us, they've just got an idea, and they need help to flesh that out. And one of the things we talk about a lot is that if you need that kind of document, which I think most people need a form of a trust, I call it an I love you document, but especially if it's going to be for giving needs or tax needs, that's a special kind of trust called an irrevocable trust. Please come to us. We can help you. We cover the costs of normal estate planning for all of our clients. There are some different levels that may take us higher up, that might involve you needing to get more sophisticated help, and we can do that as well at a greatly reduced cost from what you would pay just walking in the door of an attorney.
Super helpful. You know, I think that legacy does matter to people. I don't think, people probably always have it exactly mapped out when they walk into Lord & Richards to know what they want to do with that legacy. I'm guessing that they're not probably aiming to leave every bit of money they have to the city park with their name on a park bench, right? But they may not know exactly who they want to give it to, how they want to give it to, but they know they want to leave something behind. But we have seen some people walk in and say, I've got these 17 things already dialed in.
Right, yeah.
Help me execute it.
Exactly. And like I said, we're not only teaching, but we're also learning. So we've got clients that have done some great ideas. I'm a reader. We've joked about it. We've talked about it, but I try to read multiple books a week, and I learn from people who've gone before. In our last segment, we talked about a couple of businesses, one more well-known than the other, but learning from them is important to me so that not only I can put that in place in my own life and in my own business, Lord & Richards, but also can help my clients. One of the things I've learned is that if you have intentions, whether it's now or later, about giving or setting up special vehicles for your family or for your business, communicate those to your children. Communicate that and get them involved. The last thing you want is everybody sitting around saying, well, I wonder what's going to happen, because those children, even though they're adults, hopefully by the time they take the reins of the family legacy, they need to be brought along and understand the philosophy behind it. I've shared with my family, my goal is that we have multiple generations continuing as far out as we can that, number one, want to honor God with their lives, that want to be generous, number two, and support the same concept of helping people around the world. So I've involved my children and my family in that type of giving, that type of faith focus, with the hope that we can perpetuate it. And now I'm starting to get even more interested in what's going on in my extended family, the children of my brother and sister, and on and on. How can we make a difference that lasts more than just a lifetime? So, for example, my son is the treasurer of our foundation, and he's heading with me to Asia later on this, actually the first part of next year. And he simply expressed to me, he said, Dad, I believe in what you have established, and I want to make sure that that continues past your lifespan, no matter how long God gives you. And that's a refreshing thing for a parent to hear. It certainly is fulfilling to know that those objectives that you're trying to build in your children of thinking beyond themselves and even into the next life are occurring. It's kind of a dream come true for a dad.
I think it's also helpful for parents to communicate all those things to their children, because it provides clarity when negative times come. Because when death inevitably happens, sometimes it can get really ugly if people don't have clarity. But if the parents have set something up where it's very clear and visible and easy to follow, that makes the whole situation a lot more navigationable, I think, if I can make up that word.
Yes, that's a cool word, navigationable. I think that leaving large amounts of money to children and heirs, especially if they haven't been prepared and brought along. I've got clients who are great at this. They actually bring their adult children into our meetings together, so they know exactly what's going on with mom and dad's estate. But leaving large amounts of money to especially unprepared children results in exactly what you described, Dylan, infighting. Why would we as a parent want our death to result in the destruction of relationships that have been built over a lifetime? But unfortunately, that happens a lot. It can be avoided. I think having an emphasis on giving as opposed to leaving a large lump sum to children is a great idea. And I think also making sure that those children are involved in the, at least understanding. They may not be making decisions about your retirement portfolio and so forth, but at least bring them along. And Lord & Richards hosts events that are specially for the children. Children are invited to many of our events, but some of them are focused on those kids and making sure, and I'm talking here about your adult kids, not your 4-year-old, right? But on making sure that they know and understand what mom and dad are up to.
Yeah, great advice, Colin. You're just filled with a lot of information. We need people to come in and have a conversation with you and the team at Lord & Richards. Thank you for talking about philanthropy today. If you guys have a heart of giving, please contact us and reach out. We'd love to see you. We'll talk to you again soon on the Lord & Richards Show.
Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. That's 720-372-0400 for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Or check us out online at lordandrichards.com.
Take the first step toward securing your financial future. Request an appointment today. Whether you're planning for retirement, managing your wealth, or optimizing your business finances, we're ready to help you achieve your goals. Visit us online at lordandrichards.com for your complimentary retirement freedom review. Investment advisory services offered through Lord & Richards Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor.